Matt Bernier taking a look at this week's Stronach 5, January the 11th, this coming Friday. The Stronach 5, Stronach family of racetracks, the Pick 5 sequence, 12% takeout, $1 base bet. You can get free Stronach 5 past performances over on DRF.com with the purchase of any other cards. So that's certainly something that you'd like to take advantage of. As always with these videos, I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'm going to give you ideas, some horses that I find interesting, some horses that I don't find interesting. You as the handicapper, it's up to you to determine what you think is good advice and what you think is bad advice, and go on from there, construct your opinions. And I think this is usually, in most cases, a pretty good wager to be utilizing. DRF Ticketmaker. You can find that over on DRFTicketmaker.com. We're going to kick things off this week. The first leg of the Stronach 5 is the 9th at Laurel Park, and I hate to just be right up front with you. This is a race that I'm probably not going to give you too much as far as beneficial advice is concerned, because I think this is the most wide open race of this 5-race sequence. I do think there's a few that you can get a little bit narrow in and focus in on, but this one I don't have a real strong opinion whatsoever. The 9th race, it's a $5,000 beaten claiming race, 1 mile on the main track. There's 6 horses that I think are intriguing in here, but to be honest, this is the kind of race that, although I'm going to talk about 6 horses, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being sort of a, let's just call it a $10 mutual. I don't know that this is going to be the boxcar race, but at the same time, I don't know that I would have a ton of faith in a favorite in a race like this. I could see a 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 shot winning in a race like this, but I'm not totally convinced that you get a 20 or 30-1 chance. The 6 horses that I do find intriguing are the 4, the 5, the 6, the 8, the 9, and the 10. The 4 is Tiger Eyes. Now look, Tiger Eyes is a horse that the recent form looks really, really poor, and I can understand that, but I would throw anything from the Saray barn out at your own risk. Trevor McCarthy takes them out. The thing on the flip side, from a negative standpoint, 3 of the 6 lifetime wins have come on synthetic, so clearly this horse has an affinity for that sort of surface. Still, at the end of the day, this is the kind of horse that I wouldn't be surprised at all if all of a sudden at 5, 6, 7-1 was able to get the job done and prevail. I'd be using this one probably defensively in sort of a DRF ticket maker piece. The 5 is Miss Nosy. This is a horse, my real knock here. The recent form leaves something to be desired. You look at the overall records, 6 of 41 lifetime, 15 times, second or third. But again, it's Claudio Gonzalez. I'm not going to throw anything from Gonzalez's barn out. Probably use this one defensively, but again, I can understand anyone that looks at it and says Gonzalez, anything that he throws out there, you got to really respect and you have to use in a pretty significant way. So to me, this is the kind of horse that I'd be using slightly underneath, but at the same time, not one that I think you can totally discount and throw out entirely. The 6 is Child's Play. Child's Play is 15-1 on the morning line, so perhaps this is one that could be a larger price should this one be able to get the job done. The real thing for me, you go to her runs 3, 4, and 5 starts back. Those mid 50s, high 50s, low 60 buyers, those are all very, very competitive in here. In each of the past 2 starts, she's had issues. She had to steady in the most recent run, and she had a bad stumble out of the gate in the beginning of the run 2 starts back. I think you just draw lines through each one of those. She gets some class relief, drops back into the 5,000 beaten level. She was second at this level 3 starts back. I think she fits in here nicely. 15-1 on the morning line for Child's Play. The 8 horse in here, Greased Lightning. This is a first time going out for Gerald Brooks. Overall, not a prolific winner, 3 of 20 lifetime, 7 times with those minor awards, but I do like the fact that this one has had some success at Laurel in the past. All the victories have come here. You get a 10-pound bug aboard. This would be one that I would definitely be considering as well. 3-1 the morning line. I think it's a little bit on the short side, but again, in a multi-race wager, you got to make some calls. The number 9 is Beat You by a Chubby Nose. Great name. Highest last out buyer, or co-highest anyway, in the field with a 50 in the most recent start. That was over a wet track. This one goes out for Scott Lake. Lake's barn is doing pretty well, all things considered, over the recent run. Again, another horse that I could see running well enough in here. 8-1 on the morning line. Perhaps comes down a little bit from there, but won't be anything too short. Another one that I feel like is just in that middle group of between 5 and 8-1. And the 10 horse on that outside, Splendor Gal, 5-2 on the morning line. Again, co-highest last out buyer in the field with a 50. One here at Laurel most recently at this 1-turn mile. I just think this one fits in here quite nicely. Has some nice versatility. Can be on the lead, can sit just off of it. I would imagine with that outside post, they're going to wait, play the break, see what everybody else to the inside does, and try to take up a nice stalking position. So again, I'm not really giving you a heck of a lot as far as confidence in this first leg is concerned. I would need to spread quite deep, and again, even more reason that you should be using DRF Ticketmaker to your advantage. Second leg of this week's Stronach 5, the 9th down at Gulfstream. Another beaten claiming race, $30,000 at the claiming level, 6 furlongs on the main track. There are a number of horses that fit in here from a speed figure standpoint, but I happen to think that there are a number of them that absolutely need the lead Two horses that I like that I don't think are dependent on it. The 1 and the 3. The 1 is Unbridled Outlaw. This is the lowest level this horse has ever seen for Dale Romans. I wouldn't be surprised at all if someone does dip in and take this horse. I know he's 6 years old at this point, but on his best day, he can certainly get the job done, and he's had success at Gulfstream in the past. And the 3-horse early entry, really, based on the recent form, there's not a heck of a lot to be confident about, but you see that this horse is a first-time gelding. Blinkers go on, and it's the first time going out for Jorge Navarro. Those are things that I just can't ignore. I have to look at that and say, I got to use this horse because I don't really want to get knocked out of a sequence by Paco and Navarro going first off the claim. So those would be the 2 horses that I would key in on, the 1 and the 3 in the 9th at Gulfstream, the second leg. The third leg, we go out to Santa Anita, 1 mile and an 1/8 on the turf course. This is a maiden special weight affair. 3 horses that I'm looking at, and by the way, this is race number 4 at Santa Anita. The 1, the 9, and the 10. I can understand the folks that look at the 5 and the 6. Sutro and Decorating is the horses that you want in this spot. Sutro has Mike Smith going out for Mike McCarthy. The 6 is Decorating, Tommy Proctor, Joe Talamo. The problem I have with each of them is, you get to a certain point, particularly a horse like Sutro. Sutro is now 0 for 6, 3 times a runner-up, has that big late kick, but usually there's just too much to do. Now, perhaps the additional distance will be to this one's benefit as opposed to some of the other horses in here, but I just don't know. Look, if I'm being honest, if you wanted to really spread deep and say this is the kind of horse, if you're in my camp and you don't love the horse, but you respect and understand that this one is a likely win contender, perhaps you use this one as a backup somewhere as a B or a C. Just for this purpose here, I'm not going to use the 5. I'm not going to use the 6. The 1, See That Cat, goes out for Richard Baltus. This is always one of my sneaky favorite moves. A horse that most recently ran for a tag, was in for the maiden $6,250, $62,500 maiden claiming level. Get that one out of your mouth. And then all of a sudden, the horse ran as well as she did. Now they're going to jump back up into protected maiden special weight ranks. That, to me, is always a positive. Whenever the connections think that they might have something, they want to hang on to her. They don't want to lose her, and Pratt retains them out. I like the 1, See That Cat in there. Figures to show some speed down from the inside. The 9 and the 10. The 9-0 is another one that has some speed in that most recent run. Ran into Sutro and Decorating, but that was her first start off of a very, very long layoff. Hadn't seen her since January. Goes out there at the end of November down at Del Mar. I'm hopeful with that race under her belt, she'll be a little bit tighter. Maybe you don't get that fade like she had in that run at 8.5 furlongs. She figures to be forwardly placed. Now, again, I could see a scenario where the 1 and the 9 are the ones that are up there, and I would imagine just simply from a post position standpoint, I think the 9 is the one that probably takes up the pressing position as opposed to trying to clear off and let the 1 kind of angle back out. I still think that there's a scenario where each of those horses could just kind of go out there because really outside of them, there's not a heck of a lot of speed in this race. And as far as the 10 is concerned, Minute Mile has Drayden Van Dyke aboard. Paddy Gallagher, with his new sort of acquisitions, let's say, usually does pretty well in the grand scheme of things. So I know right now the raw numbers for him at Santa Anita don't look particularly good. 0 for 10 and only one of them have hit the board. I just find it interesting that Van Dyke is willing to take them out first time here in the United States. I haven't seen this one in a long, long time. We'll find out what you get here in almost a year-long layoff, but I do think this one is a little bit intriguing as far as the fresh faces are concerned. 1, 9, 10 for me in the third leg of this Friday's Stronach 5. We go back down to Gulfstream Park, race number 10, 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. This is a $50,000 maiden claiming race. A few horses in here that I'm going to use that I don't love. The 3 tearing it up. Look, Brian Lynch is on a pretty good streak here. He picked up a win over the weekend. This horse right here has tried and tried and tried and has all the buyer speed figures, has all the Timeform US ratings, and just can't get over the hump. And I know it's going to look like, okay, well, we're going to drop back in for the tag here for 50, but this horse has run for a tag in the past. I know it was at Saratoga, and that's a better group than what he'll probably face here. I still don't trust this horse particularly. He's going to be arguably the favorite in here, or right down to it. I think tearing it up, I think he's the kind of horse you have to use. I don't love him, but I'm going to use him. I'm also going to use the 12 horse breaking toward the outside. That's Gambit. Gambit's kind of my interesting sort of idea in here. This is a horse I was really high on early on last year as a 3-year-old. Thought he ran really well in his first start as a 3-year-old. Then they stretched him out, which I thought he wanted all along. He just never did any running, and really that's kind of been his MO since. He hasn't done a heck of a lot. The most recent start was on a sloppy sealed track at Churchill Downs, his second start off of a layoff. Dropped in for the tag that day. Just kind of even throughout, never really offered much. He's by Blame. I like the Blames on grass. They go over to the turf with them. Leperousse's fit to take them out. I think Gambit is interesting in a spot like this. And the horse that I think you have to use if you're not sold on tearing it up, I agree with you. I think you have to use Chad's horse on the inside, the number one confidence level. And really, confidence level has red flags all over him. They paid $160,000 for him. He's a 4-year-old making his career debut. He's in for a $50,000 tag. He's breaking from the rail. He's going to take money. Really, in the grand scheme of things, this is just at face value, this is not a good bet. But again, we're playing a multi-race wager. And again, how foolish would you feel if Chad is the one that knocks you out of a situation like this and you catch something at Laurel early on and perhaps you get a price in one of those other races? Maybe it is Santa Anita. Maybe it's the next race at Golden Gate, something along those lines. I can't let Chad beat me in this sequence. I'm going to go 1-3-12 in the 10th at Gulfstream. Hopefully alive going into the finale. We go back to California, but we go to Northern California. Golden Gate, their 5th race, 1 mile race on the synthetic. It's a non-winners of 2 other than... to me, Captain Obvious in here. There are some other ways that you can go, I'm sure, and other ways that will be more lucrative from payoffs. I just think Defiantly is the class in this race. I think Hollendorfer now, second off of the claim, second off of the bench, ran well enough in that most recent run. I would expect this horse to be more forwardly placed, breaking from the inside beneath Hernandez. Again, I know he's not a prolific winner, 10 times minor awards out of those 22 lifetime starts, as opposed to only 4 victories, but to me, this is the kind of horse, figures to be forwardly placed, has the class, really had been in California, in Southern California for quite some time, until about the fall or over the summer. I just think Defiantly is the horse to beat in here. That would be the horse that I would be getting very narrow in, probably a lone A, as far as DRF ticket maker is concerned for me in the 5th at Golden Gate, which also happens to be the 5th leg of the Friday Stronach 5. Again, if you've never played it, it's a great bet. 12% takeout, $1 base bet, all across the Stronach family of racetracks. This week, you get them all. You got Laurel, you got Gulfstream, you got Golden Gate, you got Santa Anita. The first race, leg A, of this Friday's Stronach 5 for January the 11th is the 9th at Laurel. It's a $5,000 beaten claiming race, and I think it's wide open. Schedule a post time for that 9th race, 4:30 Eastern. Good luck.